Hello students, presently we are dealing with R.K. Narayan's short story, Astrologer's Day is about an individual who leaves his native place without informing anybody and settle down in some other village and starts working as an astrologer. But in the course of time, he comes across a person belonging to his native place. And here we find the most interesting aspect of this story. In the previous class, we concluded with a point that the astrologer comes across a stranger when the astrologer was about to leave for his home in the evening. The astrologer realized that the stranger is a probable customer, and in the view of making few more annas, he started interacting and convincing the stranger. But the stranger is little bit adamant, and he challenged the astrologer that whether the astrologer is a genuine studied person in this field. But finally, there is an understanding between them, and now you see what actually happens in this story. Our friend felt picked. I charge only 3 paise per question, and what you get ought to be good enough for your money. At this, the other withdrew his arm, took out an anna, and flung it out to him, saying, I have some questions to ask. If I prove you are bluffing, you must return that anna to me with interest. Now you see the kind of situation and the dialogue between the astrologer and the stranger. Already I told you, the stranger has challenged the astrologer. Actually, the astrologer was trying to convince him that he charges 3 paise per question, and whatever trifle amount that you are paying to me as a charge for my counseling, of course you will definitely get the returns for it, no doubt. The moment the astrologer talks about his professional charges, the stranger withdraws his arm, but later he took out an anna from his pocket and flung it out to him, saying to the astrologer that I have some questions to ask. But at the same time, the stranger also made it conditional. He says, if at all the astrologer proves to be a bluff, then the astrologer must return that Anna to him along with some interest. If you find my answer satisfactory, you will give me 5 rupees. See now, the astrologer is also very professional. He says, if I answer your questions satisfactorily, will you offer me 5 rupees? Immediately the stranger said, no, I'm not going to offer you 5 rupees. Then very quickly the astrologer counter questions and says, or will you give me 8 annas? See the kind of bargain between the astrologer and the stranger. I'm not sure how many of you know the value of 1 anna or 8 annas or 16 annas. Probably this sort of currency you might not have seen. In fact, I also did not see when I was a child, school-going child. But at least I saw the paise, like 5 paisa, 10 paisa, 20 paisa, 25 paisa, 50 paisa. But you people have seen maybe from 1 rupee onwards kind of thing. Actually, 16 annas is equal to 1 rupee. 8 annas is equal to 50 paisa. Right? And see the charges which are applicable for every question as asked by the astrologer. He charges 3 paisa per question. Now here there is a bargain between the astrologer and the customer or the stranger, as you call it. Now ultimately they are coming to some understanding between them. And now you see what happens. All right, provided you give me twice as much if you are wrong, said the stranger. Now you see here, the stranger is putting a condition there. What is that condition? Whatever amount as agreed between the two is going to be paid by the stranger to the astrologer. If at all the astrologer proves to be wrong in his predictions, the astrologer has to pay him twice, means double the amount. Now finally the pact was agreed for both of them. This pact was accepted after a little further argument. The astrologer sent up a prayer to heaven as the other lit a cheroot. See now, astrologer seems to be very comfortable, but he found it more challenging. If at all he proves to be wrong, he has to pay double the amount as being offered by the stranger. Then what happens? The astrologer sent up a prayer to the heaven, and in the meantime, you could see that the stranger lit a cheroot. Now you try to understand, what do you mean by a cheroot? Probably you might have seen some people, those who are smoking the Indian cigarette called bidi, you know, this is a bidi kind of thing you might have seen. Some people still, you know, smoke it. And in fact, all kinds of smoking is injurious to health. So this is a kind of cigar that you call it in English, and many people smoke it. Actually, the cheroot was called cheroot as it is originated in the Philippines. And you have a basic difference between the cheroot and cigar. The difference between the cheroot and the cigar is that the cheroot is made up of a square leaves of tobacco. And you know that tobacco is also rolled just like a paper rolling. Whereas the cigar is constructed of tobacco leaves folded and packed tightly within it. So that is the basic difference between cheroot and cigar. But when you see this man smoking, at least they came to an understanding. The astrologer caught a glimpse of his face by the match light. See now, probably the astrologer is very lucky that evening. When that stranger was trying to light the cheroot, because of the match light, he could have a glimpse of the stranger. And then there was a sudden pause. There was a pause as cars hooted on the road. Jutka drivers swore at the horses, and the babble of the crowd agitated the semi-darkness of the park. The other sat down, sucking his cheroot, puffing out, sat there ruthlessly. In the meantime, these developments are taking place around. There was a car driver who was hooting on the road. There were some Jutka drivers also soaring at their horses. And there was a babble of the crowd that actually agitated that semi-darkness of the park. And now you see the stranger sat down, sucking his cheroot, puffing out, and sat over there right in front of the astrologer ruthlessly. But the astrologer felt very uncomfortable, and there was an essential reason also. Immediately, there was a change in the mind of the astrologer. Here, take your Anna back. I'm not used to such challenges. It is late for me today. He made up preparations to bundle up. The other held his wrist and said, "You can't get out of it now. You dragged me in while I was passing." The astrologer shivered in his grip, and his voice shook and became faint. "Leave me today. I'll speak to you tomorrow." The other thrust his palm in his face and said, "Challenge is challenge. Go on." The astrologer proceeded with his throat drying up. "There is a woman, ... See, this is a dialogue between the astrologer and the stranger. As soon as the astrologer realized that, he knew the person, he knew the stranger. Now the stranger is not a stranger for him because he has recognized. And suddenly he changes his mind and offers that Anna that he has taken from the stranger and trying to return to the person. And quickly the astrologer says, see, I'm not used to such challenges. I don't want to bet with you. It is already very late for me to go back home. So quickly he is trying to bundle up whatever professional equipments he has. And suddenly the man held his wrist and said, hey, you astrologer, you can't get out of it now. Literally, the man dragged the astrologer and he said, sit down and now try to tell me whatever you want to and predict about me. The stranger said, hey, you astrologer, you cannot get out of it now. When I was just passing from this place, you literally dragged me and convinced me for this kind of thing, and that's why I'm sitting in front of you now. Because of the grip of the man, the astrologer literally shivered and he realized that now he cannot leave the place. Even though the astrologer was trying to convince him that just leave me today. Of course, I'll get back to you tomorrow, and tomorrow I'll speak about your future. I'll try to predict about you. The other thrust his palm in his face and said, challenge is challenge, go on. But the man was not at all ready to accept. Now he wanted to go ahead with the challenge that he has already done. Finally, the astrologer realized that it is in vain. I cannot escape from the situation and even from the person. And then the astrologer proceeded with his throat actually drying up, and slowly he said, there is a woman. And then there are a few dots, dot, dot, dot. The man did not allow the astrologer to say anything. Stop, said the other. I don't want all that. Shall I succeed in my present search or not? Answer this question and go. Otherwise, I will not let you go till you disgorge all your coins. The astrologer muttered a few incantations and replied, all right, I'll speak, but will you give me a rupee if what I say is convincing? Otherwise, I'll not open my mouth, and you may do what you like. After a good deal of haggling, the other agreed. The astrologer said, you were left for dead. Am I right? See now, when the astrologer was talking about the woman who came into his life, the man interrupted the astrologer and said, I don't want to listen anything about that sort. Clearly tell me, whomsoever I am searching for, will I be able to search him out or not? Answer this question and get off. Otherwise, you will have to disgorge all the coins that you earned today. Then the astrologer muttered a few incantations, composed himself, and then replied, "All right, I'll speak. I'll make some predictions about it. But I have a condition. Will you give me a rupee? If at all, I'll be able to convince you. If you don't, then whatever you want to do, do it. I'm not going to open my mouth." So after all, there was a good deal between the two, and the man agreed to pay him a rupee. Rupee means, in previous terms, 16 annas. The astrologer said, now astrologer started predicting about the man. "You were left dead." Am I right? Very quickly, the man replied, "Hey, tell me more." Then the astrologer said, "A knife has passed through you once." Then, good fellow, he bared his chest to show the scare. "What else?" "And then you were pushed into a well nearby in the field. You were left for dead." This is all told by the astrologer. First of all, he tells the man that you were left alone and you were almost on the verge of death. Probably it was acceptable to the man. Second thing that the astrologer said, that somebody had stabbed a knife that has passed through you once. This is also accepted by the man, and he bared his chest to show the scare and the excitement of the man arises. And then he says, "And then you were pushed into a well nearby in the field. You were left for dead." The third important thing that the astrologer told the man is, he was thrown into the well and he was left all alone for dead. "I should have been dead if some passerby had not chanced to peep into the well," exclaimed the other, overwhelmed by enthusiasm. "When shall I get at him?" he asked, clenching his fist. Then the man replied that, "Hey, you astrologer, you are such an interesting fellow, and you told me whatever I really expected, and I know about these developments. How do you come to know about it? I was really lucky enough that I was saved by a passerby who happened to peep into the well, and then my life was saved." In fact, the man was overwhelmed by enthusiasm and started asking further question to the astrologer, and he asked him that, "When shall I get him?" Means the man was in search of the person who pushed him into the well. And now the man wanted to know where and when that man he will be able to find. "In the next world," answered the astrologer. See now, the answer which is given by the astrologer is really very surprising. He says, "Yeah, you will find him, but not in this mortal world, not on the surface of the earth, but you will find him in the next world, In the next world, in the sense, you will find him only after death, either in the heaven or in the hell. He died 4 months ago in a far off town. You will never see any more of him. The other groaned on hearing it. The astrologer proceeded. Guru Nayak. Now you see, this is the answer given by the astrologer, that you will not be able to find this man on the surface of the earth because the man pushed you into the well is no more now. He died just 4 months ago in a far off town from this place. So you will never see him anymore. The other man, that is the man, groaned on hearing it, and he felt that I missed the opportunity to take my revenge upon him. Then the astrologer proceeded and straight away said, Guru Nayak. Suddenly, there was a very quick reply from the man. You know my name? The other said, taken aback. The man was surprised. How do you know my name? Whatever I expected, you told me very accurately, no doubt. All the developments that you told are absolutely right. But how do you know my name? As I know all other things, Guru Nayak, listen carefully to what I have to say. Your village is 2 days' journey due north of this town. Take the next train and be gone. I see, once again, great danger to your life if you go from home. He took out a pinch of sacred ash and held it to him. Rub it on your forehead and go home. Never travel southward again. And you will live to be 100. My goodness. Probably you might have realized that who is the man who pushed the person into the well, and is no one but our astrologer. And that's why he is trying to say all these things to the person Guru Nayak. Now, the astrologer is going to continue, and he says, Guru Nayak, I know so many things about you. But now listen to me very carefully, whatever I say. Your village is located on the 2 days journey, okay, from this place towards the north. Now you take the very next train, whichever is available, and go back to your village. I could foresee, or I could see one more danger, a great danger in your life and to your life. But if you really want to avoid it, go back home and mind it well. Never travel southward. The astrologer took out a pinch of sacred ash and held it to him and asked him, rub it on your forehead and go back home. And now onwards, remember, never travel southward again. And if at all you remember this and follow this, I can assure you, you will live 100 years life. Why should I leave home again? The other said reflectively. As soon as the man listens to such kind of, command given by, or the instruction given by the astrologer. The man was totally convinced, and he assures the astrologer that why should he really leave his home again if at all there is any danger and a great danger to his life. So this way the man reflected and finally assured the astrologer that he'll never travel towards south direction. It means the native place of the man, that is Guru Nayak, and our astrologer is the same, that is towards the north from this particular town where the astrologer is presently living, and he already told Guru Nayak that he should never travel southward, that is from their native place. This town is towards the south direction, and that way he convinces him that if at all he avoids traveling towards the southward, then he will continue to live for 100 years. So this is how is the development in this story. But now I would like to just put a pause over here for a day, and tomorrow in the next class I'll try to conclude the entire story, and of course you will find it more interesting once you come across the end of this particular story. So thank you very much, and see you once again in the next class.